Okay, good morning, everyone. If we could have your attention, please, we will get kicked off here with our Friday media availabilities. We are now joined by Chris Buescher, driver of the number 34 Love's Travel Stops Ford for Front Row Motorsports. Chris recently got his first Sprint Cup Series win at Pocono Raceway and sits just 3 points outside of the top 30 to make the chase. He's had much success here at Bristol. Last August in the Xfinity race, he led a career best 106 laps. So welcome, Chris. If you could just start off by talking about your outlook for the weekend.
Yeah, it's happy to be back in Bristol. Definitely one of my top 3 favorite tracks we come to. So I feel like it's a place we can definitely go have some fun and have a good run. We ran pretty decent here in the spring, and just with at the time we were on the bottom for a lot of the research, and we didn't want to be there. And I feel like we're going to be saying the exact opposite this time around. But pretty interesting. I've been watching the truck race. Hearing about Xfinity practice, just trying to see where the track's heading with the new grip added. I know the trucks broke a track record. I don't know if you put an asterisk next to the track record or not, but pretty cool nonetheless. It's cool to see Bristol back on the bottom, and trying to recreate the bump and run style of racing that we've had here in the past. So looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to be different, and I don't know that everything from the spring is going to carry over. We'll probably have to work on adjusting quite a bit. With the track being now green this morning, since that little shower, we'll see how it all plays out. Looking forward to it regardless. I'm excited to be here in Bristol. I love this racetrack, so it's regardless of whether we're on the top or the bottom, it's a blast to come run at.
Okay, we'll now open it up for questions for Chris. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. We'll start up here with Jeff and then go back to Jerry.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. You mentioned the bump and run. Do you think that if everybody is on the bottom and it turns into that kind of race, that the bump and run will be like more acceptable, or will guys understand if it gets done to them, or will the tempers still flare?
I'm sure you'll be mad if you get pushed out of the groove, but I think if it's on the bottom and that's the way to pass, you better expect it. And you can be upset about it, but pretty quickly everyone will realize that's the only way they're going to get those spots back that they just lost, and they're gonna wind up on the other side, dishing it out. So if that's the way it goes, I think we should just fully expect it and just be ready. Try not to let our feelings get hurt, because it is going to be. It's going to be a tough race if it's just on the bottom like that. But, just watching the truck race, it looked like that second groove, even middle, wasn't faster, but it was usable. And so I think there's a good lane to recover if you do get pushed out. And I think there's possibility of the top or the middle being able to actually pass on the bottom, especially when it gets jammed up down there.
Okay, Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, Performance Racing Network, Kicking the Tires. Chris, last time we talked to you, hadn't had time to let it all sink in and have fun from your win. Have you had that chance, and what did you finally get to do?
Yard work, lots of yard work. It has sunk in now. It was nice to have an off weekend. Kind of take it easy. Went out to Texas to go see my family. Haven't been with them in a while, so it's nice to relax. I say that I think I did more work out there than I do at my own place, but honestly, I like to stay busy. So I went out in the garage, helped Dad, washed all my sister's cars, and basically put me to work. But it was a good time. It was just nice to change pace up a little bit. It's our last one of the year, so now we look at the rest of it, and we got some pretty awesome races coming up. Obviously that win. Special for being the first one, but with the chase format and everything going on, it's extremely important that we go after it these next 4. So we look at these races, Bristol, Michigan we ran really well at as Fords, basically as a large group, and Darlington's my favorite racetrack. So we throw in the curveball of Richmond in there that I'm undecided on, and we'll go get those couple of points and get in the chase, and then we'll be talking about a little bit different year.
Okay, we'll go next to Chris, then come up to Bob, and then over to Woody.
Chris9catchtrends.com. Chris, it's been a few weeks since the win at Pocono. Has the phone been ringing or inquiring for sponsorship, especially during the chase for Front Row Motorsports?
I hope so. I guess I don't know. It'd be awesome to be able to sell a little bit more. We got Loves on board of our Fusion this weekend, and they're pretty excited. We got some cool stuff coming for Darlington, just for the throwback scheme. A bunch of things happening that are not necessarily new, but we've had a great partnership with CSX and Loves this year, and they've really stepped up from what they've done previously. So we're happy to have them on board, and we'll definitely be glad to be looking ahead and see if we can get a little bit more.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Last year, at the end of the year, your quotes were, "I hate points racing." Do you feel like you're points racing now, and is it any different? And can you talk about maybe your approach because of where you are in the points?
I still hate points racing, but it is a little bit different this time around. It's a place where we have to be a little bit aware of our situation and make sure that we're not involved in anything that we can avoid, but it's also time to be aggressive. It's time to go out there, get every point we can get every time we're out on track, and from there we'll just let it play itself out. I mean, it's at this point we've gotten ourselves in a little bit of a hole just from some speedway racing and a couple other things, and now we're digging out of it, and the only way to do that is to go out here and be competitive. So, I look at Bristol as probably one of our better racetracks this year for speed and for where we're running in the race, and this should be a place where we can gain a lot of those points. That being said, the guys that we're racing also run really well here. So, it's going to be a battle right up to the end of Richmond.
Okay, we'll go next to Woody and then come back over to Dustin.
Woody Kane with MRM. Chris, wanted to get you to look ahead a little bit, going back to Michigan with that new, even lower downforce package. Your impressions of it the first time, and your thoughts about going back with that same package as opposed to maybe trying it at a different track.
I'm glad that we're sticking with what we left Michigan with. Not trying to change it up too much. Not trying to throw too many curveballs, especially as we get closer to the chase. I think a lot of teams will tell you that they don't want to have to be guessing when they show up to the racetrack on a new rules package. So, I think it's good to have that consistency there. I think the race at Michigan was pretty good. It was wild and out of control, and I can't tell you how many cars I saw slide from one groove up three. But it was an interesting race. It was a lot of fun. We had good speed, so I'm excited to go back to Michigan with the package they're bringing. I think it's going to be good.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Chris, since the timing lines, more timing lines have been added, speeding penalties are up. I know timing lines weren't added here; they're already a number here. You got dinged at Pocono, obviously able to come back. But what's the challenge on pit road now with more of these timing lines in most of these places, and even this track where there were 17 speeding penalties in the spring Cup race?
The timing lines. Adding more is basically just keeping us at our pit road speed. So the rule never changed. It's always, if our speed's 50 mile an hour, it's 50 mile an hour. Well, you have that gap in between lines. Now that we've split a lot of our segments in half, it for the most part is going to get rid of the speeding up, the passing. The way it was explained to me is it's more of a safety thing. We don't want cars coming down pit road too wide, trying to turn in their pit boxes and putting our crew guys in danger because guys are racing on pit road or trying to bang doors just to get to their pit stall. So from that aspect, I think it's mostly on the safety side. I think it's fine with me. It's not something that I had utilized very well up to this point, so it didn't change a whole lot for me. I'm just trying to get to the point where I can run it as close as I can to pit road speed consistently and not speed, and I still did a poor job of that at Pocono. So for myself, I don't think it's going to change much just because we hadn't been trying to maximize those segments. So now it's just more of the same.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Mark and then final question from Kenny.
Mark Arrow, PRN. Chris, as you look at this point right now, you're just barely out. If you get in, do you feel like there'll be more pressure once you're in the top 30 and have something to lose, or do you feel like there's more pressure now because you're sitting on the outside and not quite yet qualified for the chase?
Judging by last year, if we get in that top 30 and we're trying not to lose it, it's probably going to be a little bit more stressful. We had to go more on defense last year than we have to right now. Right now we got to get all we can get and be aggressive with it to gain points, and that's more fun racing. Last year I remember talking to Ricky about his 2 championships on the Xfinity side, and he did them both different ways. He did one chasing and one being ahead, and he said he had a blast when he was trying to chase them down and got it that way. So to me, that's good news. That means we can go out here, we can race, we can have fun, we can enjoy these weekends, not too worried about giving it up, just knowing that we got to do everything we can do to run it as well as possible. And that's not necessarily saying we got to try and get ourselves in a fuel window and run out of gas and lose a bunch of spots. It's saying that we got to be aggressive on track, take passes whenever we can get them, and make sure that we can drive forward so that we are earning points versus losing them each of these next 4 weekends.
Kenny?
Yeah, Chris, Kenny Bruce, NASCAR.com. You kind of addressed this in a couple of different questions, but people look at it and go, you're only 3 points back. Anybody can make up 3 points. Can you kind of talk about how difficult it is just to gain that much?
Yeah, I think anyone will tell you. It's not necessarily just 3 points either. It's going to be constantly changing. There's 4 drivers in this window that can basically upset the balance or change it each and every weekend. So, for us right now, yeah, it's 3 points to David Reagan, but after Bristol, it could be a completely different story. It could be, we gain points on David, but we could get passed by the one behind us. I mean, it's a balance, but we got to take it week by week. And kind of going back to previous questions, we have to capitalize on our weekends as much as possible. That's what's going to be important for us, is to do the best we can and let everything else fall the way it's going to.
Chris, thank you so much for coming in. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. Y'all have fun. Hopefully not in the rain.
Okay, we'll continue with our media availabilities. We are now joined by Trevor Bayne, Knoxville, Tennessee native and driver of the number 6 AdvoCare Ford for Roush Fenway Racing. Trevor currently sits just 8 points below the cutoff to make the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, and he had a strong finish here in April, finishing 5th. So Trevor, thanks for coming in, and just talk about your outlook for the weekend.
Yeah, thank you. This weekend, obviously, there are a lot of unknowns. We've seen some practices, seen a race, and we're all trying to take it in as drivers. And, a lot of people are texting back and forth about the different things they think are going to happen, but nobody really knows what's going to happen yet. I definitely think in the Cup Series, you have a lot more guys who enjoy running the top and will move up as practice goes on. We kind of saw that even here at the last race. It all started on the bottom in practice, but by practice 2, by practice 3, the groove had moved to the top. With only a couple guys attempting to run that middle to top in the truck race, you didn't really have an opportunity for the track to rubber up. So I look forward to seeing if the race changes, if you have to adapt as a driver as the race goes on. If the bottom goes away with more laps, without going out and scuffing the track or dragging the track or whatever you want to call it, in between. So I do think you're going to have to be versatile. You're going to have to adapt this weekend. But one thing I feel really good about is the car that we had here last time. We came back with a very, very similar package this weekend, and that car was really good on the top, but one of our strengths was actually being able to restart on the bottom and not lose ground. So if the race does come down to where you have to be able to make the bottom work, I think we've got a car potentially that can do that. I'll let you know after practice, but in my head it sounds really good right now. So we're just going to see how practice goes, and we know we've got to be nimble and be ready to react to whatever's going on here with all the unknowns.
Okay, we'll now open it up for questions. We'll take our first question from Woody and then come up to Jeff.
Woody came with MRN. Trevor, just wanted to get you to kind of revisit your Ironman trip to Ireland, some of the things you saw, and what the future holds for you in the Ironman world.
Well, like I told you earlier, I sold it to my wife as a vacation for the off weekend, so I probably didn't do as well in my race as I could have had I just laid around on the couch for like 4 days before. Instead, we were up touring around and driving, and on the wrong side of the road, by the way, which was different for me. That's the first time I've experienced that, so good thing I got the tire and wheel insurance on the rental car. The curbs didn't like me too well there on the wrong side of the car. But we were driving around and really saw all of Ireland and even Northern Ireland. So that was really fun. But the trip really started for me when I got there to Sunday morning, 4 a.m., waking up, getting ready for that race, which, by the way, I think the Xfinity race had just ended here or something. It was like 11 o'clock p.m. here, so that time change was a little different. Got up at 4, started getting my nutrition going with my AdvoCare products and some breakfast, and got ready to go race my first half Ironman 70.3, and went really well. There are other factors in other forms of racing too. So here we deal with rain. There we dealt with rain. It rained on the bike. You still get to ride during that portion. But something that caught my attention the day before that I never really thought about was when they started talking about canceling the swim for jellyfish. So we're going out into this harbor to swim there in Ireland, and they have this report that the beaches are closed for lion's mane jellyfish, which, by the way, are the largest and 5th most venomous jellyfish in the world. So I was pretty thankful we were going to have wetsuits on, but there are a lot of factors you don't really think about when you're going to do another form of racing. So I didn't get stung by jellyfish. That was good. Got out of the water alive and pretty fast. Made it through the bike decent. The rain slowed us down a little bit, and then got to the run. And mile 7, I started questioning myself. I was like arguing with myself. How is this a good idea for my off weekend? How in the world is this considered fun at all? And 2 days later, I was already thinking about when I'm going to do my next one. So you forget fast how bad things like that hurt when you're pushing yourself. But it was really fun for me. It challenged me. I feel like that morning I woke up and Josh Wise had been training me for a long time, and I was talking to him about it. And that day that's probably the most fit you've ever been in your life when you go to do a race like that, and you've tapered and you've trained with a lot of volume of workouts and riding, swimming, running. A lot of guys are starting to do that around the garage here, so it's fun to see. But that day was probably the most fit I've ever been in my life, so it's pretty cool to do that.
Okay, we'll go next to Jeff and then over to Mark.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Trevor, if the bottom is the preferred lane and it turns into one of those old Bristol type races, does the bump and run become more acceptable, and do guys have to change their mentality for that, or if somebody gets bumped, are they going to be mad no matter the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing. It's a fine line here. You've kind of seen it on the top with the slide job. People do it, and some people get mad. Somebody cuts them off or slides them up into the fence or whatever. But, when you're racing, and you got to go for it. And if that's the only way to pass, it's the only way to pass. Obviously, there's a difference in a bump and run and a crash somebody, and that's the line you got to walk. To me, if you've got to be on the bottom, somebody's holding you up, and you run in there and you move them up a lane and you get the position and run by them, that's acceptable. You go in and you knock somebody from the bottom lane to the 4th lane, which doesn't exist, and they're in the fence. That's something you've got issues with, and you can kind of tell the intent when you're racing around somebody, and sometimes you deserve it. You hold somebody up 4 or 5 laps, and they're kind of nudging you, and finally they have enough and they move you. But we'll just have to see how it works out. I'm hopeful that there are going to be a couple of lanes and you'll be able to adapt and move around. But if not, it's going to be the Bristol of old, and drivers are just going to have to check their feelings at the start-finish line when we go by for the first time.
Okay, Mark.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Trevor, how do you view your situation now, where you are in the points, in view of Chris's win, kind of taking potentially one spot out of the mix as far as getting in on points?
Yeah, with Tony Stewart and Chris Buescher having wins, obviously that changed the landscape a lot for us. And then with Dale Jr. And the issues he's gone through, it's kind of evened out some of that for us in our point standings. Obviously, if he returned, he could still be a factor. But for us right now, we just have to get the most out of every weekend. A lot like what Chris was saying, we're in a very similar situation where we're points racing, but you need a win. For us, I don't know that points racing alone is going to get us in. We've basically got to beat 2 guys if you figure that Chris can get in the top 30, which is still going to be a challenge for him as well. They've run a full season and they're back 3-4 points from 30th, so there is a potential that doesn't happen, but we race as if he's already in. For myself and my team, we come to Bristol and say, you know what, we need to win this race. We put the effort in and we go at it as if we've got to win, and you've got to do it in a way where you're not making mistakes, though. You don't want to force something that isn't there and cost yourself points. We've still got a long season to go, 14 races, and so these next 4, we race them a certain way, and then we race the next 10 a certain way. But right now for us, Matt will be aggressive in his calls. I'm going to be aggressive in the way that I handle my business, but also cautious if you can. At the same time, kind of like Watkins Glen, I worked really hard to be better at road racing. I feel like that was an area where I really struggled at this season at Sonoma, and I put in more time working on that than I've ever put into anything in racing. Basically I committed to 6-7 weeks of, my wife and I saying, this is what we have to do. I'm not going to be home except for like 3 days in the next 6 weeks, and I've got to go work at this and get better at it. And the result showed for us. So I was really thankful that the Lord honored that, and that we got a result out of it with a top 10. But we come to Bristol the same way. I put all the effort I can into this, knowing that it's really going to count, and I'd be aggressive. I don't give up anything, kind of like Watkins Glen. I didn't feel like I let anybody run over me, but I also didn't do dumb things and run off the racetrack and tear up my race car, burn the brakes off. I got to do that here at Bristol this weekend. It's no different than what we did at the Glen.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Pete and then go over to Jeff.
Trevor, Pete Iacobelli, Associated Press. How do you feel about the progress you've made this year from last year, and what's the attitude around Roush Fenway? Does it feel like the programs are getting back to where you all want them to be?
Yeah, we're definitely not where we want to be because we're not winning races yet. But where we are in contention, the fact that we're contending and we're in the discussion for a chase spot on points says a lot about what my team has done this year. Matt Buescher has been a great fit for me. He's a guy that has helped me keep my head and worked really hard together. He's a guy that will put in the hours, and I'm in that same boat. So I feel like we really mesh well together at the race shop. We discuss things. We have a lot of conversation leading into the race weekend, how we expect it to go, and typically it goes that way. And then down the line, Matt's a little superstitious, so he didn't like that I said it at the meeting on Tuesday at the race shop, but we haven't had anything fall off our race cars. Our guys have done a great job of making sure the details are done, and that's why we're in this situation. We probably aren't as fast as some of the guys we're racing around for this spot in the chase, but we've been consistent. We've made progress in that area. Myself, other than Indy, I don't feel like I've made too many mistakes on the racetrack that have cost me points. Maybe there have been days where if I was really just nailed everything, I could have gained 2 spots or 3 spots early in the season when we first started working together. So I feel like we've maximized every race, and that's why we're here. So I'm really excited about that. I'd love to see more raw speed in our race cars and in myself when I unload for practice, and get back to how we were early in the season when we were qualifying really well. We were making the final round almost every week, and the last few weeks, we've kind of fallen into that second round area, and it makes racing a lot harder. So I want to get back to that raw speed of early in the season and continue to execute like we've been doing. But I'm really impressed by what Roush Fenway's done. It's very tough in this sport to turn things around when you're chasing a moving target. So they've done a great job. All the gains we've made are showing results, and that's what we want to see.
Okay, we'll go to Jeff, come over to Chris, and then finish up with Dustin.
Hey, Trevor, how important in this sport is momentum? And looking back at this race, Food City 500 back in April, that 5th place finish, how important was that for your team as far as gaining momentum?
Well, it definitely gives us something to build on. And, when we came here the last time, we left being in the chase, I believe. And so to be this much further into the season and still be in that same situation, we've done a good job building off of that finish. For me, I'm not a guy who would tell you that, a driver gets confidence all of a sudden and he goes out and he starts winning races because his confidence is up. Your confidence is up because your team is doing something that you can be confident in. And that's what we have going on this year. I can be confident in my guys because they're doing their jobs well. My guys can have confidence in what I'm trying to do on the racetrack because they know I'm putting the effort in. And so that momentum and that confidence comes from something that's real. It's not like you just say to yourself, I'm going to show up and be confident today, and you go faster. It's just building and trusting and working together as a team. And like I said, I think that's something we're doing really well together, and that's what we can hope to continue to do these next 4 weeks, and then see where we're at and reevaluate after that and see how we race the last 10.
Okay, Chris?
ChrisKnightKidTrends.com. Trevor, what's your outlook going to Michigan next week, and can you talk about being a dad, for the first full season of your Cup season?
Yeah, Michigan was tough last time. Jimmie Johnson and I are good friends, and we go ride our road bikes together, and I think we did that weekend, and wiped them out there at one point. So the cars were just tough to handle around other people. You could drive in a foot too deep, and next thing you know, you're sliding around, and that's why you saw a lot of attrition there. And being in the situation we're in, obviously Bristol will change the situation we're in for good or for bad. We'll know how we have to race Michigan, but it is a tough race where a lot of things can happen, and it's one of those places, again, where I bring up qualifying. We've got to qualify well there to run well there. It's so tough to pass, so tough to get track position, but it does lend itself to being aggressive on strategy. So I feel like I've got one of the best guys on the box with Matt making those calls and getting me some track position, kind of like he did last weekend. So that's kind of how you have to race Michigan. And with that rules package, it becomes even more of an issue and even tougher to race around other people. Yep.
Okay, last question with Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I've got a couple questions for you. The talk about the bump and run, if that does come back, then what's it like on Monday then? I mean, is it going to be texting back and forth, or is it and what are those conversations like, or are those even necessary, and too much is made of those things?
Well, to go back to his question, I have a daughter that I've got to answer to. So for me, the way I handle my business, there are a lot of people looking at that, and as I'm a dad now, I kind of have to think about that. So getting out of the car and throwing your stuff and going up to somebody wanting to fight is probably not a good example for her as she gets older. But for me, I think I like to talk through things. Even when my wife and I have a little argument or something, I'm one of the guys that wants to talk it out and get it all out there, not have anything left inside that you're thinking or feeling about this other guy and carrying it week to week. I hate that mentality of, I've got a checklist and I'm coming for you and, I'm going to check you off next week, because most of the time that doesn't happen anyways. People just like to talk about it. So for me, I'd rather air it out. You have an issue, you talk about it, you get it behind you, and you go on to the next race. We're all here trying to do the same thing. But that doesn't mean it's no holds bar and just go out there and wreck everybody or get wrecked by everybody. There's also a respect that you have to have for each other and what we're trying to do here. I think everybody knows each other's situation for the chase, and we know, the guys that are in, the guys that are out, the guys that don't have a shot, and you kind of pay attention to the way they race you and the way you race them.
And I also wanted to ask you, in the last few weeks, the sport has seen Chris Buescher scores first series win, Justin Marks scores first series win, Ben Kennedy do that.
Yep.
What is that experience like as you see other guys go through it? What does that bring back for you? And two, what is the weight on one shoulder in trying to get that second win? Because a lot of times you hear drivers about, for lack of a better term, being a one-hit wonder in one sense in that way.
Yeah, for every single one of those instances, I couldn't be more excited for those guys. Justin Marks is a friend of mine, Chris Buescher the same, and I haven't spent much time with Ben Kennedy, but just listening to his interviews and, the humility he has and the way he's going about it, I can really appreciate that. And so I was really excited for him to get his win here. Same for Justin and same for Chris. But you're right. This sport is what have you done for me today? Not even lately, it's today. And so those guys know that win was great, and they'll celebrate it this week. But when they go to the racetrack next weekend, you got to go do it again, and that's a lot of pressure. But it's what we're here for. We want to win. We aren't here to drive around in circles and collect a paycheck. We're here to win races, and that's what those guys are doing. That's what I'm here to do. And it's not about satisfying everybody else's expectations. It's about satisfying your own, and that's why we do it. Yes, sir.
Trevor, thank you so much for coming in. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we are now joined by Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Kobalt Tools Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. The six-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion has 2 wins this season and currently sits 6th on the chase grid. So, Jimmie, just talk a little bit about your season so far and your outlook for this weekend.
Obviously coming off of a nice off weekend. I spent a lot of much-needed time with my family, and feel like the battery is charged and ready to go for the final stretch of the regular season, then obviously head into the most important part of the year for us, which would be the chase. A lot of hard work went on during that break that we had, and just judging by excitement from Chad all the way through Mr. Hendrick, we're definitely turning over some stones and hopeful to bring a little better product to the racetrack week in and week out. We've been struggling at times, trying to produce speed and lap time of late and making mistakes in the process. Still rallying with some decent finishes from time to time, but then again, still having some bad luck, and I think Watkins Glen kind of speaks to that as well. So, and also self-inflicted mistakes. So, looking forward to a good clean race here at Bristol, which is obviously interesting place to have those expectations or desires. There's usually nothing clean or simple at this racetrack, but if we can do that and get through here and close out the regular season strong, we're gearing up. And I think come chase time, middle of the chase, the way things are looking back at the shop and the excitement I see through all the departments, we're expecting a good late season surge for Hendrick Motorsports.
Okay, we'll take our first question from Al and then go to Woody.
Hey, Jimmie, Al Pearson, Motorweek. Looking back when you retire and you're on your rocking chair, will it bug you at all that you've not won at every track, Homestead in particular, where you're 0 for 15? Will it be a little glitch that you...
Well, it's not over yet.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying...
Did I miss an announcement or something?
There. But would it bother you?
No, I'm with you. No, it won't. It is not something that has been on my radar from a goal standpoint. Again, I wanted to win a race, and then when that happened, I had to start changing my goals quickly. And that was my dream from my mid-teens or late teens when I thought NASCAR could be a career path for me. So I've exceeded all my expectations. Sure, it'd be awesome to do it. If I can, it will mean a ton, just like many other things that I've been very fortunate to accomplish. But it's not what will. I won't sit in the chair and be upset over that one. Not that.
Okay, Woody.
You came with MRN. Jimmie, just wanted to ask you to look ahead a little bit, going back to Michigan with the even lower downforce package, your impressions of it and the idea of going back there as opposed to trying it at another track.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough position that we're in, but I'm thankful that the teams, and it's the biggest burden on the teams, and then certainly NASCAR, and being open-minded to trying these lower downforce packages. We've seen a lot of great things in the 2016 season with the lower downforce package. It's hard to say that Michigan is the best track to try it. From the driver's standpoint, we've asked for slower center of the corner speeds, and Michigan has the highest center of corner speeds. So to try this package there, I get it. I'm not sure it gives us exactly what we would need. I'd love to see it on a short track. I'd love to see it on a 1.5 miles before we'd make a decision to move on. But the truth of the matter is we don't have that luxury, especially when we get into the chase. We can't take this to a Texas or even Richmond coming up, which isn't in the chase. But it's just very difficult to pull off and develop a product. But everybody is trying. So I'm very excited about it. I think it is good to go back a second time to Michigan, let the teams have another shot at it. From my standpoint, the first Michigan with the lower downforce, it was still Michigan. It still raced the same. It was still tough to pass. And it's been that way ever since we've resurfaced the racetrack. So I don't put a lot of weight in the package is the culprit there. I'm going back a second time with it. Hopefully, we refine our cars and we can race a little bit better. But again, if I had a perfect world, we could have started the 17 process early in the year, pick some tracks that are more common on the schedule and get a better feel for it. But it's just not the situation we have.
Okay, we'll come up to Pete and then over to Jim.
Pete Iacobelli, Associated Press. Jimmie, you've obviously been in this situation before where you're in the chase, it's the end of the season. How do you manage this end part of the regular season when maybe there are other guys out there willing to take some chances that you may get caught up in or other racers may get caught up in because they want to get in the chase too?
Unfortunately, we're locked in the chase, so if it is somebody trying to make the chase and something happens, would be bummed that it would affect us, but it doesn't prevent us from getting in. And honestly, it gives us an opportunity to take chance too. And we're starting this week with a new front tire changer, so it's nice to get some reps there. A longtime member of our team, Cam Waugh, had to pick up and unfortunately leave the race team to do what was right for his family and isn't with us any longer, so it's going to be nice to get some reps. We also would love to have momentum on our sides from a pit stop standpoint, a consistency of running up front standpoint. The pressure that comes with fighting for a championship is really intense, and we feel that if we're able to put our team in that race-winning environment, it better prepares you for that. So that's really the goal, to close out the regular season and to head into the postseason.
Okay, Jim.
Jim under motorsport.com. This is sort of a follow-up on that question. but a lot of people would, if we didn't have the current chase format, would probably be looking at your statistics and saying, gosh, recently, and saying they need to, what are they doing to address their problems? But the kind of attitude appears to be, they're in their chase, we're not there yet, there's plenty of time. But it sounds like from when you're talking, the way you're talking, that you guys are not resting on your laurels and are trying to address the things before you get to the chase.
Oh, for sure. I hadn't thought of it from that standpoint. If it was the old format, statistics wouldn't be good. And I also think we wouldn't have taken as many risks, trying different setups, different things that have gone on. But it's certainly, no matter which format it is, it hasn't been a great year for us. We won a couple times early, showed some early season strength, and it's been a tough summer. So nobody knows it more than us, and we want to be better. And not only the team, but all of Hendrick Motorsports is working really hard to get back to where we want to be. Unfortunately, there is time, and fortunately, it's the chase format. So a lot can happen still before the season's up.
And I want to ask you a quick question about William Byron. That you guys added him at Hendrick Motorsports this week. He said he grew up as a Jimmie Johnson fan. I just wondered if you paid much attention to him and what you thought of him.
Yeah, I've definitely been paying attention. We live in the same neighborhood, and I can recall him trick-or-treating at my house when one of the rare opportunities we were home. So I absolutely know who he is, and I've gotten to know him. Seen him around home. Think he's an amazing talent, great head on his shoulders, and I'm very excited that he's under the Hendrick umbrella now. And hopefully we can take advantage of his youth and great talent and give him a great run. Excited that he's on the team.
Okay, we've got time for just a couple more questions, so we'll go with Bob and then Jeff, and Jimmie will be available for a few more minutes off stage afterward.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. How are you going to know if any of these improvements are working, considering you got 2 short tracks, the 2017 package, and Darlington, which I don't know relates to anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we are shooting blind a bit. I think that Michigan will help some. Yes, it is a totally different package. Darlington will be a good indication for us where things are at. Granted, it's not the same shape, but you have similar speeds to the 1.5 miles. So I think Darlington will probably be the best gauge for us. And then obviously getting into the chase week to week is a big part of it. We need to continue building strength from week to week.
Okay, Jeff.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Jimmie, if the bottom does turn out to be the preferred line this weekend, and it turns out that it's the old Bristol, so to speak, does the bump and run become more acceptable than it is on another weekend? Do drivers, are they okay with that, or are you going to get annoyed if somebody does that to you?
You're never annoyed when you're passing it out, but you're always annoyed when it happens to you, regardless of circumstances. I think you're more tolerant if it's, it might sound crazy, but if it's for the win. If you're running 15th and get wrecked for 15th, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's an interesting question, and it depends. If you're a chase contender, if you've won a bunch this year, you're probably more relaxed on it. If you're looking at the first one of the season or opportunity to get into the chase and somebody dumps you or knocks you out of the way, you're going to respond differently. And getting moved is one thing, getting dumped is another. So I feel like that this car, the way the bumpers match up, it's much easier to have casual contact and not crash a guy. So there definitely could be some bumping and banging, but you've got to go to some great lengths to dump somebody. And if that happens, I think the person's going to be upset, period.
Jimmie, we appreciate your time. Good luck this weekend.
Cool. Thank you.
We're going to continue with our morning media availabilities here at Bristol Motor Speedway, and we've now been joined by Austin Dillon, driver of the number 3 Dow Great Stuff Chevrolet. And Austin, you are on pace to make your first chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup this season. Just talk a little bit about how your team will approach the next 3 races and overall just how you feel like your season has went.
Well, I feel like we've had a solid season to this point. A couple ups and downs throughout, but overall, I'm pleased with the speed and the direction of our cars. Pocono was a highlight this year. I felt like a car that could win a race. So I think we're heading in the right direction, and I wish we could have some races back. I think everybody does, but we do have some circled that we wish we could have back because we lost some big points on because of just failures and whatnot. But 3 races to go, and or 4 really, isn't it?
Well, 4.
Yeah, 4. So we got
right.
4 to go, and I'm feeling pretty confident in where we're at and the direction, like I said, where we're headed, and want to have a solid run here in Bristol to kind of get to these last 3.
Right. We'll go ahead and take questions for Austin. If you have one, please raise your name and state your name, or raise your hand and state your name and affiliation. We'll start with Doug. Go ahead.
Mark Carroll,
Sorry,
PRN.
Mark.
That's okay. That's all right. Austin, how do you view the situation you're in now, in the sense that you do have a pretty good gap, a better one if Buescher doesn't get in, but you still have, even if he does get in, a pretty good gap? And what's your mindset as far as aggressive versus conservative to get what you need?
I think we have to be aggressive. Anytime you play defense and you start playing that game, it seems to hurt you. And try and lean on some of my past of Xfinity Championship and Truck Championship to figure out. I think the best way to lean on is the Xfinity Championship. We were kind of playing from behind there the last 6 races or so against Sam Hornish, and we're able to really string together some really solid runs, top 5. So 4 to go, just got to look at it. Finishing the top 10, I think we're solid. 4 races, 4 top 10s, and that would be a great goal. We got a little leeway right there, top 15, but I think top 10 would take us home.
All right. Woody, I believe you had a question?
Woody Kane with MRN. Austin, so you got your 3-on-3 basketball deal coming up here pretty soon. Just wanted to get you to describe that a little bit, where the idea came from originally. I know you did it before, but and to do something a little different. I mean, it seems like everybody's doing golf.
Yeah, everybody does golf, and I just wanted to try something different last year, and it seemed to be successful, kind of the same format as golf, but just playing a different sport. We've got a good lineup this year. I've been working hard on trying to get different celebrities from different realms. Got Tyler Farr, Chris Lane, Colt Ford. Got a magician, Carl Michael, I think, and football player Will Witherspoon. A lot of different guys from different sports, and I'm excited about it. I got different college basketball players coming to play, so there'll be some dunks. And Joey Logano is now a coach. He said he'd rather not play, but he feels like he could coach. So I got him in there. I got to thank him. He's got his own team there, so I'm excited about that. Denny Hammond will be there. I'm trying to talk in a couple other guys, but for some reason, every time I get the responses, "Have you seen me play basketball?" So I told him I would put good players around them, and hopefully I can get more to come. I talked to Jimmie and Kyle and different people, so we'll see what we can get. But I've got a good lineup so far, and we've got enough for 16 teams. So that's pretty solid, and it's at the LJVM Coliseum on August 31st in Winston-Salem. Invite all you guys out there and have a good time. There's an open bar out back, so we'll have some fun.
All right. Additional questions for Austin? All right. We get a microphone to Stan, please.
Hey, Austin. Stan Creekmore with theracingexperts.com. With the weather the way it's been, do you hope it keeps raining, or do you really, really want to get some practice?
I think everybody wants to get in a little practice to see where their cars are, for sure. And with the bottom line being a little more predominant this time, quite a bit more yesterday, I'd like to get the Cup cars out there for at least one practice. Sometimes you get too much practice and you can throw yourself off. So I'd like an hour for sure. And I think our cars have stepped up, so I'd like to go qualify also and see where we're at. But if not, we're starting in 13th, and we can do it from there and have a solid day. So whether we're sitting in a good position either way, but I'd like to have an hour or two of practice, hour and a half.
Jerry?
Jerry Jordan, Performance Racing Network, Kicking the Tires. Austin, let's just assume you make the chase. How do you attack that first segment going in to secure moving forward?
I think we attack it with no limits. One thing on our mind is to win races, and we got to do that. So I actually feel like we have a good shot of winning one of these last 4. We've got 2 of the 4 circled, and never know what can happen to the other 2. So for us, it's just throw everything at it, whatever we can to get to the next round each time. And I really feel like there's a bunch of good races in the chase for me. If you look last year, we had some really solid runs at the end of last year in the chase. So just want to get in there and battle it out. I feel like there's a lot of 1.5 miles that play to where we've been good at this year in the chase. So, and then the short tracks that are in it are places that I've run well too. New Hampshire, Martinsville, those 2 places are solid. So I like the places that we go in the chase.
All right, Jeff.
Austin, 2 things. Number one, early in the season, it looked like your team was really close to winning. I mean, you're talking like you feel like you guys are right there right now. And then the second thing, just the Bristol night race, all the history with the 3-car here. What does this race mean to you?
Oh, I mean, it's this place is always special. You come here and there's nothing like it walking down into this place and kind of get jacked up coming in here and want to run well. And obviously the history has a lot to do with that. And I like what the track's doing with trying to make that bottom line come in, and I think that's good. I think they've already kind of started without what they're doing. I think what they did to just make the track smoother down there. When you see that stuff come up, I still think there's going to be a bottom groove somewhat. So it's going to be fun and interesting race, and looking forward to see how it plays out. And hopefully you see some of that old school bottom style driving. So. And then past that, the other question was winning a race. I thought Pocono was probably our best race this year, other than just the finishing part of it due to weather, and then just some small things that we made mistakes on that we could have done better. But speed-wise, that was my favorite car we've had, and we've got something coming similar just like that car to Michigan. So I'm looking forward to getting there.
All right, Jerry, go ahead.
Jerry Jordan again, former station network Kick Tires. Ty was in here yesterday, and this is going to be his 100th start in the Xfinity, but he was really focused on wanting to get into Cup. What would that mean to you guys to be able to race like that, and his performance, to this point and moving forward?
Well, I think it'd be great. I think it'll push me, and it'll help our organization, and he's got a lot of fire in him, and hopefully that happens. I'd love to see him out there, and that's. It's my little brother, man. I want him in there.
All right, we'll take our final question from Woody. Go ahead.
Woody came with MRN. You mentioned Michigan a moment ago. I was just curious about your thoughts of the even lower downforce package the first time you raced it, and thoughts about going back there to the same track with it again.
Yeah, I enjoyed it the first time. I think there were some things that we could do a little better, and I thought I heard that they were putting rubber down there too in the top lane or something. I heard that, but. So that should be interesting if they did the same thing to Michigan. So if it widens out a little bit, that would be something to really enjoy. So, I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to the challenge, and I think we can build on what we did the first race.
All right, Austin, thank you for your time, and best of luck this weekend. Move on, continuing our media availabilities this morning. We've now been joined by Matt Tifft, driver of the number 18 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Matt, it's great to see you this morning. We're glad to have you here at Bristol Motor Speedway, and we'll turn it over to you to give us a little bit of an update and an outlook on the rest of the season.
All right. Well, it's great to see everybody. I can't tell you how much I've missed being at the racetrack. I think it's been since June, and I don't know if I've ever stayed away from a racetrack that long. So, but I know there's been a few updates along the way, but I just figured it'd be a great opportunity to come out and update everybody here. So I guess first of all, just going back to exactly what happened. So I was diagnosed with a low-grade, grade 2 diffuse astrocytoma or glioma, which is a slow-growing brain tumor. It was a benign brain tumor, and this was something that we just couldn't mess with. we didn't want to wait around. This is something that it hadn't taken on a cancerous form or a dangerous form yet, but in the future it very well could have. So on July 1st, I had a craniotomy. So I got this nice scar over here now, but it was a successful surgery. They got as much as they could out. And with these things, the way they best describe it is it's a wet cotton ball in like in a cup of water, basically. So they can pull out as much as they can, but there's always going to be a couple strands left in there. So, that's just one of the risks that they know. But they were able to go in and actually do a fairly aggressive surgery and get the most out as possible. For a couple weeks, it was just kind of rough getting off the anesthesia and all that stuff. But, one of the most shocking things to me was apparently with a brain tumor, one of the biggest symptoms is your loss of smell. And so I came down the stairs, I think the Monday after I had a surgery, and my mom was washing something with Murphy's oil, and I guess I couldn't smell things for years, and like it just hit me and made me nauseous, and all of a sudden I just started smelling everything. It was like, my goodness, I can't believe this. But my sense of smell is like back incredibly, so that's been kind of cool. But just one of those things you wouldn't really recognize normally unless you had that. Or until we figured out that it was a brain tumor. That was one of the symptoms. So part of the recovery process was just trying to get back to a normal state of mind. So the first couple weeks getting back, every day I could do like 30 minutes more of activity without getting too wore out. And one of the most fascinating things I thought for the surgery was that they had to take a flap, and basically the jaw muscle over here was stretched out. So the most painful part was actually just the jaw, because your brain actually doesn't feel the pain in there like you would think it would. What I would figure out, though, is every day when I had new experiences and going to the mall, walking around, just things that you think are just so normal to everybody, all of a sudden those things were stressful situations that you could just tell what effect just everyday normal things had on your brain. So it was just fascinating getting to learn about that. And every day got stronger and better, and to the point where I was able to start driving a streetcar again and get back to normal life, basically. So after that, I was able to get back to a normal physical activity level. And what we did then was, after the surgery, after we felt it had healed enough, we did a 5-day EEG study, which so before and after the surgery, we wanted to make sure that there was no chance of seizures whatsoever. And this is obviously out of respect for everybody with competition, making sure everybody's safe, and for myself being out on the track as well, just because of the nature of what we do is obviously a high-pressure situation. So proved both times that there was no evidence of seizures whatsoever, so that was a huge step in the recovery process, and ultimately to show that it was a successful surgery, and that my brain was functioning at a healthy and safe level. One of the great things was that we had 2 sets of doctors from Duke and UCSF come back and tell us that as far as treatment for this tumor, they actually felt like because of it was a slow-growing, low-grade tumor, that I actually will not have to undergo any treatment. So that's the best news out of all of this. And they feel like if we can do MRI monitoring about every 8 weeks, at least for a while, and then they'll back it down to 3 months, and then slow it down from there. But just keep an eye on it. This is something that can grow back, just the nature of the genetics of this type of tumor. But obviously that's a huge step that I didn't have to undergo any treatment, and that was great news to hear that. Moving on from that, in the last week, obviously sitting out of a race car for a while is tough. I'm not gonna play that down at all. I've missed it a ton, but from my doctors this week, they feel that I am at a point now where I can start to work back to going back to racing. So actually this weekend on Sunday at Hickory, I'm going to go test a late model and start to get back in the seat. So I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. So, obviously it's been a couple months since I've been in the car, and in that time, I just really want to thank everybody from Joe Gibbs Racing and Red Horse Racing for working with me, and Steve D'Souza and Chris Gale and all those guys over there. I can't tell you how great they've been through the whole process and understanding everything. And everybody that's filled in as well, from Sam Harness Jr. and Owen Kelly, Dakota Armstrong, and Kyle. It's it's not easy when you have something like this to work out the logistics of it. So those guys have been great in working with us and our partners. We've got some great partners with Tunity TV and Bring Gear and Surface Sunscreen. Just some really cool companies that have worked with us through this whole process and have been willing to work with other drivers coming in the seat. So at this time, if you have any questions, feel free.
Right. We'll start with Jim Utter.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. Good to see you back, bud. During this whole time, did you ever kind of think about maybe not working back to racing or just pursuing something else, or has that always kind of been your goal from the get-go?
No, my goal from the get-go is to get back in a race car. Honestly, if you look back at the video updates and stuff I did, the reason I was able to stay so positive and so driven during this whole time was that one goal of getting back in a car.
All right, we'll go Jeff, Bob, and Dustin.
Jeff Buck from USA Today. Matt, you have incredible poise, and your updates have all been very positive, but it's had to be scary for you, I'm sure, at points in the process. What was that level of fear like, and how did you deal with all that was going on and try to keep a positive attitude about it?
Yeah, of course, I probably came off as positive as much as I could, but the fact is that it's a very scary and a very real thing to go through. I lost my step-grandma to a brain tumor, so I was very familiar with it. I had a really great support group with my family and my girlfriend. Just getting through the whole thing it's not something I would ever, well, the great news was that it was something that we caught very early. So the whole time, just realizing that it could be a whole lot worse was, just keeping that in the back of my mind, because I started working with the American Brain Tumor Association, and some of the folks from over there, they were so helpful with giving me resources and everything. But I thought one of the most fascinating things going through this whole process was just going through social media, people sharing their stories and their kids' stories and everything like that. It really puts things in perspective, and I think sometimes we get lost in this world of NASCAR that, sometimes we get trapped in a bubble a little bit with that, and you get hit with something like this and it's shocking, but then you realize with other people, man, there's a whole lot more that could be going wrong, and it just makes you appreciate things a lot more.
All right, Bob, go ahead.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. What would be the steps after Hickory? What do you need to see, or what do doctors or the team needs to see from you to potentially get back to actual racing?
Well, I think first things first, just going to go and do the test on Sunday and see how everything goes. The most curious thing to me is just seeing what my level of stamina is compared to the past, because it's been so long since I've been in a car. I don't know what the exact steps are going to be, but I think the biggest thing is just to get back going and get back reoriented in a race car.
Right. Dustin, go ahead.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Matt, what does somebody think about when they're in the hospital at night alone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What does somebody think about when they're in the hospital alone at night?
Man, I don't know. It's you have different thoughts when you're there. Luckily, I was able to get cleared pretty quickly back home. So my surgery was on July 1st, which was, I believe, a Friday night. And I was cleared back actually almost 24 hours later. So the doctors gave me a checklist to go through to get cleared back. They thought I was going to go back home on Monday. I went back home Saturday night. I remember waking up that night in the ICU. And I think the Xfinity race was actually on Daytona. It was playing in my room there. So I remember waking up and seeing just a little bit of the race and then kind of going back to sleep. But in the beginning, it was definitely your body has been through so much when you literally take out part of your brain. I mean, it's just your body's chemistry is all changed, really. So in the beginning, I was very driven to get back home. But then as soon as I got back home, you get that realization of, okay, this is not going to be tomorrow I'm going to be okay. This is going to take some time. And in the beginning, that took a while to really understand that. So, I mean, there's definitely some times where you're bummed out. You're like, I just want things to go back to normal, But then, you just got to keep telling yourself that you got to do everything necessary and push yourself to get back to that point.
All right, we're going to go to Jeff next.
Matt, you were talking about watching that race or seeing the race on TV at Daytona. Did you find easy to watch the races? Is that something you wanted to do, or was it tough to watch the race someone else in your car there?
It was tough. And I think in that race, I believe we had David Reagan in the car. You never want to see. One of the oddest things for me was, seeing your name on the door plate there and you're not in it. It's bizarre. But I think it made it easier knowing that I had the support of the team and support of everybody to get back in. You never want to get to that point, I think, in any sport where you feel like they're taking your job. But when you go through something like this, it's just, hopefully years down the road, I look back at this and this is just a little speed bump in a long career, and it's just great that we caught it when we did. So, but yeah, that's never an easy situation.
All right, we're gonna go Chris, Hunter, and then up front to Jessica.
ChrisKnightCatchmans.com. Great to see you back, Matt. Who's going to be at the test on Sunday? Who are you testing with? Is it your family team, or are you driving for Kyle Busch's late model team? What are the scenarios? Are you going to test it with anybody, or are you going to be by yourself? And will you consider maybe running a late model race before you come back to NASCAR?
Well, so the team we're going with is a team I knew from back when I did some late model racing in Florida. So I think it'll be a pretty low pressure environment. I think for myself, what I want to see is short run speed, how well I'm able to adapt with tire fall off. The normal stuff you go through, but just how quickly I can adapt and feel the car again, just with handling characteristics and all that. Just trying to, make sure that I'm totally good to go with that. But definitely long runs and trying to run as many laps as possible to get a whole fatiguing day to at the end go, okay, this is equivalent to what a race day would be. I think that we've definitely looked at, if possible, doing races before getting back in, but we just got to get through this test on Sunday, and I'm really looking forward to it. But the big thing is just getting in the heat. Obviously, it's been so hot lately. It's a great test for that, and being fatigued in the car and still driving, seeing what that's like. I've pushed myself in the gym, honestly, probably harder than I ever did before this happened, and just for that time when I do get in the car, I can hopefully be at that level, if not a little bit better than where I was at before.
All right, go ahead, Hunter.
Hey, Hunter Thomas with thefourthturn.com. Chris Knight actually asked my question, so I'll just ask you, what do you think your emotions are going to be whenever you finally strap into that late model and get up to speed?
I think I'll be smiling from ear to ear. I can't tell you how excited I am to strap back in the seat. It'll be a really great feeling.
All right, we'll take our final question. Go ahead.
Jessica Ruffin, NASCAR.com. You mentioned that you had during the recovery process, your senses were heightened, your sense of smell was crazy. Do you have any fears, with racing being such a stimulating situation, do you have any fears about it being like almost overwhelming when you do get back in the car?
That's an interesting question. I think that's obviously something that I've thought about before, just what that would be like. I've been trying to do as much as I can at home, just with simulation computer games and stuff like that. And actually, the Duesenberry Martin Racing guys gave me a pretty cool setup to practice on there. So just the visuals themselves of racing with other cars, even in a virtual world like that, I think it helps. Just the strain on your eyes, even just from a computer, in a real sense, obviously it's different, but I think that's definitely going to be an interesting piece of it for sure. But you know, I honestly can't tell you what it's going to be like until I do it, you know.
All right, Matt. Well, we're thankful you're here today. We're glad to hear the good news, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of this season.
All right, thank you guys.